All right. Hey, I'm Nick Harcourt, and we're here with Gusta. We got Ryan, Brian, Adam, and well, first of all, welcome back.
Welcome back.
9 years since the last time
It's
you were here.
It's a marker of time.
You look exactly the same.
That's not true. Adam does.
I look exactly the same.
You look great.
But this room is completely different.
It's
No, I'm
brighter.
kidding.
There's more lights.
Yeah, time flies, you know, and I know obviously we've met each other a few times through the years, and we were just talking before we started. Well, we've rolled all the other stuff as well, but the piece that people will see about the fact that I first met you guys in Woodstock in like 1997 or something like that, which was the year before I moved to Los Angeles. It was on your second album. And first of all, congratulations, because who sticks around in a band for 30 plus years?
It's my favorite thing to think about now. Like
Right.
it's like us and Insane Clown Posse. You know what I mean? Who else is it?
We're the same.
Who
Yeah,
is
we're
it?
the same.
That's it. That's all I can think of, the 30-year club.
Yeah.
Although like NRBQ, I don't know, but I like not that anybody cares, but my dream is I want to do what you do. I want to talk to every band that's been a band for 30 years.
Right.
It's pretty rare air though. Like I think the longer you make it, the less people there are. You know what I mean? People fall off. It's pretty crazy.
It is, and like to actually have an original lineup. I mean, you have other people in the band
Yeah.
now as well, but to have an original lineup that lasts that long is just
And to make new
unheard of.
records too. That's like, I think that you can kind of cruise to 30 years by just
Right.
like being Steve Miller and playing the Steve Miller hits
Sure.
every summer. But that's not what we're doing either. Like to keep making music.
Is that your way of segueing back to the business side of this now?
Wait, I don't know. Was I?
You have a record?
My media training
No,
has
brilliant.
told me.
Well done. Well done.
No, I'm happy to talk. I actually think it's funny. Like like when the record was coming out, we were talking about like, well, what's the story? Every album has to have a story.
Sure.
Like we're all big storytellers at this point. And I was like, the story isn't really about the record for me. I mean, I love the record. I'm happy to talk about the record, but I felt like the story was like I was equating the band to like a lifetime. Like in your, when you're teens, you think you know everything, but you don't. In your 20s, you start to like settle down. But like in your 30s, you really like kind of give less of a, can I cuss?
Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of you don't give a shit anymore.
Sure.
And you just kind of like, well, this is who I am. If I want to wear a muumuu, I'm going to wear a muumuu. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
And you do.
And I do wear a
Yeah.
muumuu. And I think that is kind of like, that's what I'm fascinated about bands that have been kind of made the 30-year mark. You just kind of like, you settle into yourself and you're like, this is what we do. We kind of know what we do well. We're kind of letting a lot of bullshit go. And this is like kind of the best version. It's cool to be in your 30s and plus, you know what I mean?
Well, and now it's when you're 50.
Yeah.
right?
So there is that weird equivalent where you just like, this is who we are. You know what I mean? You kind of have less to prove in a way.
So the record is called Ooh La La. It's the 9th album.
Yeah.
I mean, why only 9 in all this time? I'm kidding.
That's fair. It took us 5 years this time around, which was unfortunate.
Well, COVID obviously,
Yeah.
interrupted a lot of people's lives and careers. So tell me where you were at around about that time. I'm presuming, like a lot of bands, you had plans for that year.
Oh, yeah.
And then how did you sort of deal with that downtime and then start writing the songs that became the new record?
Well, we were in the middle of a tour. I think the longer we've been around, the more that we've kind of wanted to fuck up what the band is. And that we were literally in March, we were on a tour with an improv comedian named Connor Ratliff, where we were doing an improv Guster show. We did 2 nights at Hollywood Cemetery. It was like, and it just felt really strange. There was no comparison for it. We didn't know what we were going to do or how it was going to work, and it worked. And we were like, and we were kind of on the front end of like pushing the boundaries of what the band could do. And then that happened, and it was sort of like, it was crazy. I mean, it was crazy for everybody. I think my one little anecdote about this is like, when did we do the drive-in show? Like that first year?
Yeah.
Late
So there was,
2020.
I don't know, like at least out, some bands were playing at drive-in movie
Yeah, same
theaters.
here.
And we played a drive-in movie theater in southern Vermont or New Hampshire. And it was really weird. And I was like, oh, instead of clapping, honk your horns or flash your lights. And I just remember getting in the car after that and just being devastated. I was like, just because the life that we had built up until that was so cool. Like, we're brothers. We make music. We make new music. We have fans. We're able to sustain ourselves. We have good families that support us. And I was just walking away from that drive-in show being like, I can't believe that my whole life just is like sand.
Is this what it is now?
Is this what it is? And it was
we're
just
going to play to
sand.
carloads of people?
Yeah, and I just was I was really mourning it, really grieving it, and then we were starting, we were writing some music, and we wanted to start recording, and so we recorded a bunch in Woodstock with our friend Josh Kaufman, but we were in masking and testing and isolating, and there was all the stress around it. And then it just, we kind of followed the wave of the whole thing. We played like the biggest show of our career. In the middle of that, there was like a minute when COVID broke before Omicron.
Yeah.
Oh man, I have no memory.
I know, I've shut all that out of my brain.
Yeah,
All
and we
those-
played Red Rocks at the Colorado Symphony, and it was like this triumphant moment. And it was like, okay, we're back, and then the world shut down again, and we were sort of navigating all this. But it's funny, like, do you know this band Goose?
Yeah.
They're really big. And I was asking my friends the other day, I was like, how did that band get so big? He's like, oh, they had a really good COVID. They had a really good,
COVID.
They had a good pandemic because they had a good pandemic. Like they figured out how to play like they worked the pandemic in a way that they got big in the pandemic. Like they had a good pandemic. And I feel like, I know
I want to hear them say that. We had a good pandemic.
Hang with me for a second. Like I'm going somewhere with this. I think in a way we kind of had a good pandemic in a
We
way.
did?
Well, here's what I think. Here's my theory.
We started recording our album in the pandemic.
Yeah.
We started recording our album in the pandemic, but also the pandemic, I think it blew out like new music. You weren't gonna take your like exposure to go check out some new band, and people came to the comfort food. So like, if I'm only gonna go out once in 6 months and expose myself, I'm not gonna do it for this band that I heard on KCSN once.
Right.
I'm gonna do it with the thing that sustains me.
Yeah, I'm
and-
going to like go and see a band that I know, that I
and
love.
that comfort, and that is food for me. That is fuel for me. And so I think that I don't think we had a good pandemic, but I don't think it's totally unrelated that it felt like it solidified us a little bit and also our fan base a little bit because we are inextricably wound with people's journeys, and that was such an existential moment. Is that too heady to say?
No, I've got my own version of that.
Please.
I think we all do, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got their
What's
own
your
version.
version?
My version is I just tried to stay alive. No?
Yes,
Yeah.
you did it.
Yeah, I did it.
Congratulations.
I did it. To keep my house.
Yeah,
And to
right.
and to figure out how to keep all the plates spinning. Started doing the radio show from home.
Yeah.
And all the other work dried up, but you find ways through it, and everybody had their ways of dealing with it, I guess, creatively as well.
Yeah.
It's a great opportunity when you've got nothing else to do to maybe do something new. Maybe learn a new skill,
Right.
learn how to edit. I mean, I was playing guitar and writing songs. I got an album coming out next. Kidding.
I believe you.
But let's pull the other guys in on this a little bit as well, because I know, Adam, we were talking earlier on about some of the stuff that you do outside of the band, and you're non-profit, you're not for profit, which also ground to a halt.
Yeah, so Reverb is the nonprofit I started. It's actually our 20th anniversary this year. It's an environmental organization that helps make music more sustainable and harnessing the power of and reach of music to engage and empower the public, fans, and beyond to take action for the climate. Because, when you're one person alone, you're like, what am I going to do about the climate crisis? But if you're millions of fans taking action together, if you're a Dave Matthews Band fan and we can hold the mirror up and say, look, at the end of this tour, we did X, Y, Z together, it works. And we've done that now times 30 every year on all these different tours, thousands of concerts, and millions of fans. So it's
But
been
all those tours stopped as well.
to a screeching halt, and we had
Right.
a full staff of people that we had to pay and keep them fed.
How many people were on your staff at that
A dozen. Yeah. And we kept everybody on, but it was a scary time because,
Right.
like our entire business, it's a nonprofit, but it's still a business,
Right.
was based on concerts happening.
And
Right,
and
it's
you're
scary.
you're based out of Maine,
Portland,
right?
Maine, yeah.
Right. Brian, where you're in Brooklyn?
I'm in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I remember the pandemic. Well, I remember one on January 6th holding up my laptop while people were climbing up the Capitol, and you were doing a vocal take. And I was like, I walked up and I was like, look what's happening. Look at America.
America.
So there was the political side of it all, which kind of got in my head, and I got into a deep hole with all that stuff. But we also had to tour with everyone in the band not being on the same level of COVID chill. So people at different extremes about, oh, well, can we see people after the show? No, we're on lockdown. Okay, are we wearing masks in the bus? Like, we didn't always see eye to eye on that stuff. And so tour felt like fraught, whereas it always used to feel like really great. Fortunately, that was a brief window where until we all just came into alignment again and the world kind of normalized in a sense.
So, I mean, we were all sort of looking at what was going on in the world, I guess, COVID, and then obviously the chaos in the political system, etc.
But now it's all good.
Yeah, it's good.
Everything's
Everything's
great.
cool.
No more
Look
COVID.
at us. Woohoo! Look at this. And we finally did it, you guys. Just look around. Everything's
Nothing in the
great.
news this week.
Well, for me personally, I've just had to disconnect because I just reached a point, literally, I told you I was on vacation for a week, and I was like, I've just got to disconnect from this stuff. I've just got to disconnect because I have no control over it. I can do what I can do, but I have no control over it, and it's driving me insane. Coming back to you as artists, how do you take that? How did you take that? And you especially as a lyricist, obviously, and be able to, still have something positive. I read a quote where you were saying, we still want to have something positive in our music. We're aware of what's going on in the world, but how do you sort of bring all that stuff, plus your parents and, older guys, you've got stakes.
We've got
right?
stakes.
When you're in your 20s, you don't really have any stakes.
Yeah.
You have stakes now. So how did that work its way?
Yeah, we got teenagers, we've got wives,
Yeah.
we've got aging parents, all that stuff is in it. I mean, I literally had the same moment that you did a week ago, like when that thing happened, when the gun and stuff.
Yeah.
And I watched it happen. I was like, I'm unplugging. Because I've been like force feed. It was like the Matrix. It was just like going in and I was all in it. And I was like, it was the same moment. I was like, there's the things you can control and the things you can't. And the
Right.
things I can't control, I'm going to let go of. But I think in terms of it, and this, I think maybe it was like, both of you guys were a little bit like when we were making the record and we were talking about like, when we were writing the songs and we were starting to play with lyrics and songs, like I think there was maybe an overt or maybe a subvert version of like, let's not be cheeky. Like there's something that like it was a recognition of what our fans wanted from us and what they needed and maybe what we were uniquely positioned to provide for them. And that is not being like clever, but being heartfelt and really embracing that sort of like, because that positivity that you're talking about that you just kind of need is baked in. It's baked into my life, and I'm trying to teach my kids that, and like, things you control, things you can't, and try and focus on the things you control. And so like when you write a song like Keep Going or Maybe We're All Right, like those are things that I think are going through my head as a 51-year-old, in terms of like, well, there's you have a choice about how, there's a story that we get to choose to tell ourselves about how we go through life. And so I feel those things very deeply, and I think that putting those into song and using producers and sounds and melodies and harmonies that support that felt important. You know what I mean? And I think this record is finding its way into some of our fans in a way that maybe our others that were like less heartfelt, because we were embracing not the positivity. It sounds so cheap because it's not. It's like there's just like, yeah, I'm sort of losing the thread a little bit, but there was definitely a choice around the music to try and be a positive force, or at least to be reflective in a way that wasn't like everything sucks and we're all gonna die, or we're all gonna die but it's gonna be okay. I don't know.
Well, and a lot of the music was written before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
So then it was really, really talking about lyrics, I think, because the music, the bed was there. Obviously, it has to line up with the mood of what we wrote. But there was definitely, we had stuff going in to those sessions pre-COVID, so it wasn't
Sure.
like we were writing a COVID record.
We
per
had
se.
like 6 or 7 half-written songs, and
Yeah.
poor Josh Kaufman had to
Yeah.
sit there, and we're like, well, we all took our tests, so we're here for 5 days.
Let's make a song.
Let's figure out how to arrange these songs. We were really unprepared.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
unprepared. But also the point of like, working with Kaufman was that he was about heart. He was about let's do a vocal take, even if there's like if it's not perfectly in pitch. Like it was about,
about
that
the emotional
organic,
center.
about the emotional heart. And he was, and that I think we all knew that we wanted a record that had a heart to it.
Yeah. Well, for me personally, like you talk about, like fans coming to our shows to feel that comfort in that time of uncertainty. Like those sessions were that for me. Like I was like, oh, okay, I'm with my brothers.
Yeah.
We haven't seen each other. Yeah. And it was like, remember the bubble, like we're bubbling. And so like, okay, we could bubble. I learned how to bake bread as you're learning all these different skills. It's like and we were in a house, so like Brian's doing a drum take, I'm baking sourdough, it's all wafting through the air. It felt like the most comfortable I'd been in the pandemic was making these songs.
Yeah, plus it was a break from being the worst homeschool teacher that ever lived. I was the worst.
And where did you record?
It was just outside of, it was in Woodstock proper.
In Woodstock.
I was in
Yeah.
Woodstock.
Yeah,
Everything.
Isocon, it's gone now. It's our friend Dan Goodwin's spot. But
Everything comes back to Woodstock.
it kind of does in a weird way.
It's really kind of weird.
It's a strange place. in that way.
And Josh Kaufman was a producer, as you said. You guys have worked with a few great producers
Great producers.
through the years.
Really.
How do you approach that?
I think it is a little bit reactive to the kind of music we want to make. And one thing that we got really good at, and some of it was, I think, really started with Steve Lillywhite when we did our record with him in Woodstock, was when we make a choice to go with a producer, we give ourselves to that producer. And we don't, like, we made a record with Richard Swift, who passed, and he was out of his mind. And when we were there, we didn't try and meet him halfway. We were like, okay. I mean, we did ourselves, but we gave ourselves to the process.
We'll go
We're
with
going to
this.
go all the way.
Yeah.
And I think we've made, and our last record before this was with Leo Abrahams, who works with Brian Eno.
Right.
Totally different kind of guy. And we're like, we're not going to try and like dilute what you do. We're going to go all in with you, see what we have at the end, and then we can figure it out. So we've made some really good choices, a couple bad choices. I mean, I think two of the worst experiences we ever had in a band were two of the horrible humans that we've chosen as producers.
Sure, it happens.
It happens.
It happens.
It happens. But also wonderful. Like,
Got a couple of ex-wives like that.
exactly, but you go all in. So I think we've had a good job. We've done a good job about that. We self-produced a record as well, but yeah, we just learn. You learn so much from watching, to kind of giving yourself to someone like that. And now, of course, we're like, as we're older, like the producers are younger than us and stuff. Used to be, we're like really young. We're like, oh, teach us everything. Tell you about it. It's like, hey kid, you know how to use this computer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's part of the whole, like, as a band being at that, if we're a band, we're in our 30s and kind of knowing who we are, it's all the more comfortable going into a situation like that and trusting the process because we know who we are and what we can bring. And so if we choose somebody to collaborate with, like you said, we want their full contributions. We don't want to be like, well, but we need to. It's like, no, we know what we are. We have. It's on record, literally. What we've done and who we are musically. So why wouldn't we go in some tangential direction with the producer, especially because that's what I think is keeping us in our 30s. Like you mentioned, that it's like it's rare air for bands that are not like U2 that reach this 30. Now we're in our fourth decade. Mm-hmm. And I think isn't that rough to hear?
Don't
Oh,
say
I don't
that.
like
I
that.
know, that's rough.
Fourth decade.
That's where we're in.
Wait till they start calling you veterans.
Veterans.
Oh, no, we got that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ancients.
I'm a veteran DJ. I'm
but I
like,
think-
what? I just started.
I think if we didn't keep trying and exploring musically, we wouldn't have made it this far. I think we wouldn't have just ridden out
Sure.
what we've done in the past. We get bored too easily. And I think that's what keeps, I think is a huge part of the lifeblood of the band is creating music that every time we get together to write, we leave like stoked and happy about what it could be.
You talked about the audience, talking about doing live shows during COVID, and live has always been such a huge part of the Gusto experience for you as well as the fans, obviously. I know that earlier on this year you were doing your Eras tour, Eras. I didn't even know how to say that, to be honest with you. I mean, I knew that Taylor Swift had a tour, and it was ERAS.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
How do you say it?
It's Eras, right?
Eras?
I don't know.
You get a pass.
But now I know because I was reading about your stuff and you go, yeah, we're going to do our own Eras tour. I'm like,
Is it
oh.
Eras?
I say Eras.
I say Eras.
Is it because I'm
Eras?
English and I say it weird?
You get a
I'm
pass.
You say
Oh, I get
everything
a
weird.
pass.
Because you say everything weird.
Yeah, but you did a song in an English accent a few years ago,
Oh,
so
Jesus.
don't give me any shit.
Yeah, it's true.
man.
I know.
Yeah,
We don't play that one anymore.
Slightly regrettable. Slightly.
It's pretty good.
Okay,
song.
so Eras, the Eras
Eras.
tour.
Yeah, Eras sounds nice.
Eras.
You could do
I
Eras.
think
It's
that's
fine.
what they. Well, I've been away so long, you know.
You're a veteran.
There are words that come into my head, and I'm like, is that from when I lived in Australia or from England? I don't know.
Don't bend yourself to anybody else. You just do you. We got you.
Eras,
Eras.
covering different parts of the band's history,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
What was that like, first of all, to sort of revisit?
Well, I think in terms of like beyond musically, I think we're trying to find a way to present the band differently. So we started doing shows with orchestras 15 years ago.
I haven't got to that.
All right, but that's okay. So we'll book. But that was like a way to be like, oh, this is a different way to present the band.
Right.
It felt amazing that you could just be like, new way to do it musically. The whole dynamic was crazy. You're playing new rooms. Then we did the improv. We had Jeff Garland open for us. We did a comedy tour that got a little weird. We leaned into that. Did an improv comedy tour, and I think those were all such successful tours. Not just for. Like it was just felt fresh, and it's hard to keep things fresh after 30 years. And so, I think we've been looking for ways to kind of mess things up, not just musically, but how we present the band. So we were talking about what we should do for this big tour. The tour was already booked. I was like, we should do an underwater prom, and everyone's like, cool, good idea, Brian. And then Brian was like. And then I had, so the two parts of this is like, I had seen this Broadway lady do a cabaret. You know what a cabaret is?
Yeah.
Like a proper cabaret.
Sure.
Was like, I was 12 years old and I first heard Liza Minnelli do My Fair Lady. And then they'd sing, and then I was super high and I was like, Guster should do should do a cabaret. And I was like, I'll never pitch this to the band. They'll think I'm out of my mind. So I was sort of sitting on that. And then Brian was like, we should just do an Eras tour. And I was like, oh my God, that's fucking brilliant. And then, but let's do skits and let's do costumes and let's have sets and let's tell the story of the band. And then Brian went away for like 3 months and wrote this script basically, and just like dumped this like 14-page script on our laps that was brilliant, really. And like went from like us meeting in the dorm room, like the very first, and Dave, who was our drum, became our narrator, and it was Adam and I in a dorm room, and
Sitting on my bed.
sitting on a bed. We had a really this like backdrop, and it's like he's playing the Grateful Dead, and I'm like, oh, I only know the Cure and the Smiths in New Order, and I was like, well, we should just write a song. Do you know the D chord? And then we play the first song.
I love it.
It's great, and it was great, and
love it.
like we had 4 days of pre-production. We just like learned our lines and our blocking. But it did
have to act all of a sudden.
Yeah,
Like all
and
summer.
but it like told the story of the band, but it was still music forward.
Sure.
And it was us. And so like we had the faith that we put so much love into it that even if we blew it, we knew it was going to be okay because it was like so well intended.
Well, and it's your lives.
It's our
you know,
it was our lives.
Exactly.
And it was really well done. Like the script was great and it did tell the story. And like, you know, after our fourth song, we plug in, you know, we go from acoustic guys in the dorm room and then we present with the big thing. And so
Right.
there was an arc and then we end with the new record and then we we have an encore where we kind of did some stuff. And it was like, it was really magical. Like there was no comparison. Nobody had ever done that before. Our fans fucking lost their shit. We lost our shit. It was so fun. And we're like, well, maybe we're like an art project now.
Is that something you think you could take to? And I'm going to get around to a couple of other things that you do to Broadway. Is that something where you could take something like that to a theater and do it for a month?
Yeah, we just don't have enough fans, I think. I think we're not, that was my whole thing with the cabaret. It was like, we could do a cabaret and we would sell 800 tickets 3 nights and it would be over. You know what I mean? Like,
We're not as big as David Byrne.
Yeah.
I loved American Utopia. It was great, and I was like, this would be cool, but we're just not.
we're just not big
Yeah.
enough. But that, I mean, but the,
Well, you
but,
could do a couple of weeks in Vermont.
Yeah, but we did. But what we're doing is we're touring it. Yeah, I know
Of course.
exactly.
No,
but
but I
the
was just
touring. Yeah, I
I was
know.
just
We're not
thinking
big
of that
enough.
idea.
Yeah,
All right.
no. I think it would. It is kind of everything that I had hoped it would be, though, because
Right.
it is a storytelling element. There is acting and weirdness, and then we play music, and we got through it. So I think it is kind of my dream realized. I don't know that there's another version of this unless other people were playing us. Like,
Well, then you could be like Kraftwerk and sit in the audience. and
exactly.
just
Or
watch
was it
the-
Man or Astroman that had like 10 bands touring simultaneously with
Right.
the masks on? I don't know. But I think this is the version of that. I don't know what we do now. I mean, we're doing it again.
We're going to do it again, and we're going to actually come out to the West Coast.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
Next year, early next
talking on the West Coast, which is where you are today, and obviously this is going to go out after the show, but on Saturday you're doing your orchestra show here in LA at the Ford Theater with the LA Phil, which is amazing. Talk about the orchestra shows. As you said, you started them about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
How do you decide, let's go do some orchestra shows? I mean, is it a matter of getting offers? Is it a matter... Right.
Yeah, I think what happened was first started. We did a show with the Boston Pops. It was even longer than 15 years ago.
17
I think.
years ago.
And we did 8 songs with them, and we were like so scared. And it makes sense because the classical music halls the audience is aging, and bands really like to do this. So we weren't the first band to do it, but we were on the front end, I think, of this.
We're the first
especially
of the Pops.
Yeah, like we were on the front end, and now so many bands.
There's
are
a
doing
lot
this.
of bands doing
and
it.
so that's
Yeah.
actually kind of the way I've been thinking. Is like there's this whole group right behind us. Like we got to go play with all the good orchestras before they're just only doing like the National
Right.
and Beck. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
we're onto this front wave, but we've been doing it now for that long, and we've done it with with the Dallas Symphony and the LA Phil and the Pops, and we're doing a lot of it. There's a couple more check boxes, but not a lot more. And they are really special. It's like playing you're like on the top of an aircraft carrier.
And I've spoken to a few people who've done these shows before, and they say, like once you've got the charts,
Yeah,
you just show up.
yeah,
And you have 20 or 30 or however many musicians are in the orchestra behind you, and they know what they're doing.
80.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
80.
80. Like a lot of these orchestras.
Wow.
We've done them. Usually it's 50
Yeah,
something.
but like you get rehearsals and it's on the clock. Like it's a military operation.
Right.
So like, we're not talking about this in the past tense, are we?
Yes.
Okay, but I know it's in the future, but we're not pretending anything, right?
No,
you know
no.
how sometimes you're like pretend that it's tomorrow.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
not doing that.
No.
I love the fourth wall is gone.
It never happened, actually. In
So
fact,
tomorrow,
this whole thing.
it already happened.
Yeah.
But on Friday, what we did, I think, in the future, is that you run through every song once. And
Right.
and you can't, you got to stay on it.
no redos.
And everybody's just sitting
Yeah.
there looking at their charts.
Yeah.
And if you kind of told them to jump off a cliff,
Yeah.
they would do it
Yeah,
in
if
a
you
way.
screw up.
Then we're screwed.
Yeah.
And that has happened a couple times.
Yeah.
And you got to stay in, it's a little bit nerve-wracking in that
Right.
sense. Because we don't play to click tracks or loops very often. Like, we're a fluid band, and if someone screws up, we kind of move around it. That's not...
Why'd you
don't-
point to me when you said somebody? Somebody.
The conductors are the most impressive part of it.
Yeah.
They know every song. They've researched it online. They know every chart for every player. And when something goes awry, they're on it. They have the note, and they're fixed it in real time without having to run it again. And then it's correct at the next time you play it. Like, these people are superhuman beings.
And if we slow down or speed up or miss a beat or something, they can
Why did you look at me when you said that?
It's not me missing
Well,
a
someone
beat,
sings
'cause
out of tune, Ryan.
I don't play drums.
I don't
That's
slow
why.
down.
I want to talk about a couple of things that you've been doing separate to the band. Sorry, guys. But I remember the last time you were here, I was asking, so what else are you doing? Well, I'm just beginning to maybe get into the idea of doing music for film
Yeah.
and TV. And here we are 9 years later, and you've done a ton.
Yeah.
But you've also done a musical.
Yeah, but
play.
that is actually Guster adjacent, so it does include them in a sense.
The play does.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
it started that way. It's in a little bit of flux. Basically, the first film that I had ever scored was called Safety Not Guaranteed.
Yep.
2012, maybe 2000, something around there. Somebody approached me. I met a guy in the world, and he was like, "There should be a Safety Not Guaranteed musical." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And then I show up one day, and he had written. It's called The Book. The script is called The Book. He'd written
Right.
the book, and every time there was song in the musical, it was a Guster song.
Got it.
So I walked in, and there was these 6 Broadway actors, Tony Award winners, singing 6-part harmonies. A guy playing acoustic guitar, singing.
They're using Guster songs?
They did. And they were like, I love that.
happened, Ryan?
It's just now. And he was like, see, you can do this. And I was like, okay. So I started. So there's a narrative, it basically, and it was a jukebox musical, but it was, you know what I mean when I say
Sure.
jukebox musical?
Yeah.
Like Alicia Keys or Alanis Morissette, they weave a
songs that
plot
already
around
exist, yeah.
but it wasn't really working. So I've been slowly replacing the Guster songs one at a time
Yeah.
as they sort of work. And there's still, right now, there's still 4 songs left in the
Why don't
thing.
they just use the Guster song?
Throw us a bone, dude.
I know, but they're sort of weird. And I just got a weird note from the producers like, that song doesn't work. I'm like, okay. So it is sort of Guster adjacent, but in the meantime, I'm writing these songs and like for the Safety Knife Guarantee musical, but it's going really extraordinarily fast, like faster than any other musical I've ever heard of. So we have a premiere date. It's happening at BAM, which is Brooklyn Academy of Music,
Right.
Harvey, which is 850-person theater,
Right.
5 weeks and starting mid-September.
Right.
Crazy, like crazy outside of my expertise, learning so much.
Yeah, but
all the
how
time.
cool to sort of push yourself and stretch yourself in that way.
It's so cool. And I
And-
think it's like, it is really about like, this band I think has taught us, and like Adam being like, I'm going to start a nonprofit. It's going to like save the music industry. Although you probably didn't say that when you
didn't say quite
started.
like that.
But you know, it's like like everything kind of comes out of the band. You know, there's like we have this base here
Right.
that allows us to kind of go out and be like, oh, I'm going to try a film scoring thing, and then
Right.
like, all right, I'm 15 films in, and I'm like, oh, I know how to do that now, and that's really fun, and I want to do this musical. Like, you kind of just yes and this stuff, and you lose your imposter syndrome the older you get too, and you're just like, okay, I think I know, I can figure this out. You know, like nobody knows what the fuck they're doing, and then they just do it.
That's one thing that I've learned for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's
Nobody-
winging it.
everybody's
Once
winging
you
it.
realize that everybody's winging it,
then you just wing it.
then you just carry on winging it yourself.
You wing it,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
all of
yeah.
a sudden you
Yeah.
end up and
Yeah.
you're, you know what I mean?
hosting a radio show.
Totally.
In a band.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You-
Writing
yes
music,
and it's the
writing
it's
musicals.
yes and everything.
Yeah.
So it's really cool, and again, like I think that it's really mushy because I think it did kind of influence the Eras thing a lot for me to have seen that, and to like, and the guy that's writing the book could have directed it, and like, I think it's all getting really seepy. All these things that we do at a, you know, nonprofit, and my film scoring and the musical, all kind of seep in, and everything kind of settles down into the Guster thing, and allows us to kind of think bigger, you know. And honestly, I think like the musical will probably help the band. Like we performed it for the first time. We were just at a workshop for 8 days, and there was like 20 people in the audience, and there was like old ladies, and they were like, that was really good. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, what's the name of your band? And I was like, Guster. And they're like, I'm gonna check you guys out. You know, like I think it's all really mushy. It all
Well,
helps.
the whole Broadway and theater world is a whole world unto itself.
Crazy.
Very,
Yeah.
very different. I know a few people who work in it as producers, and it's crazy.
nuts.
But very small.
So small,
a
and
very
everybody
small
knows
world.
everybody. And like
Yeah.
the thing that we're doing tonight that is also in the past. Do you know about this thing at Dynasty Typewriter?
Yes. Yes.
With like this with all the comedians and
yeah,
shit.
you're doing a comedy show. tonight.
Kind of, but it's also like there's comedians. Madison Cunningham's playing with us.
Right.
Like we have a bunch of special guests that are
Right.
coming, and that's also like we're like, what is that? Like
Yeah.
I know there's a Largo and Friends kind of thing that happens all the time. It's
Sure.
sort of based on, but like, let's tour this thing.
Right.
Like, it's weird, and we keep getting in these things where it's like, who's really doing this stuff? And no one really is doing it. They're like, well, why can't we just do that?
Well, if you can pull it off.
Yeah, that's
You
a
know?
thing, and we
Remains to be
can.
seen. We'll see after tonight.
Yeah.
But I mean, everybody's super talented.
Right.
Like Chris Fleming and Rory Scovel, and like Beth Stelling, and like they're all really good at comedy. They're not going to be bad tonight. Like, and I think it will all work because they're all fans of the band, and we all know each other, and it's not this like cynical like, oh, we got to put this people on the list. Like we all know each other, and it's gonna be so fun. Like let's go do that in Chicago for 5 days,
Why not?
or LA for 5 days, or New York for 5 days.
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, it sounds to me like you're going to be going with this gig for a while. I mean, you guys have got so much shit going on. It's thank you for finding the time to come and hang with us for a minute.
I do really like. There's just not a lot of things that have been there from the beginning. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like I know this is gonna sound, but it's like I appreciate that's like what we were saying about like Michael McDonald. I'm like, it's crazy that we get to keep doing this, but like I do think that there's value in the 30-year band club of like going back to the people that you met 20 years ago.
Oh,
that
yeah.
like saw
Yeah.
you and you're like, hey man, how have you been? How
Yeah.
have you been making out in the
Yeah.
last 2 decades? Like, there's the older I get, especially with our kids being teenagers, and the time, that my perception of time is just like racing right now. Like I'm sort of craving these like bedrock moments to kind of be like, oh, like I don't, like I'm very much trying to stay in the present, but I'm not. Do you guys ever think about playing 10 years from now? Do you ever think about that?
When I'm like 61,
Yeah.
should write a song called "When I'm 61."
Yeah.
That'd be
But do you
good.
ever be like,
You could do
think
like a-
about entering your 5th decade or
You could
some
do like a
shit?
Well, I think
double
about it-
concept album
yeah.
or something, like with an orchestra or a band. I don't know.
I think about touring when our kids aren't at home anymore and what that might look like.
You do?
I think about that, yeah, and what that might mean for our wives, and like, could we like, all right, maybe that's the time we go mess around in Europe or see what's happening. You know, it's like
That's the
finally
time we
done
learned
Europe.
$50,000 a tour in Europe.
at least release like kind of on vacation.
The Empty Nest tour.
The
Yeah,
Empty Nest
Tour.
tour is so
All
good.
right, Empty Nest
All right,
Tour.
well,
We're
we
doing
know what
that.
we're
Got
doing
it.
in 5
See,
years.
I told you.
It's great.
I told you.
It's great.
This is going
This
to
is it.
keep going, and I hope it's not another 9 years till I
Me too.
see you in person. Obviously, we connect on social media once
Yeah.
in a while or whatever, but such a pleasure to see you.
Always.
Guys. Yeah. Thank
Always.
You. Thank you. Thank
It's
you.
great.
I mean, we could keep talking, but these guys have got to go.
I
home.
know, I'm sorry. We kept you so long today. You get paid by the minute, right? Sorry.
Bought a ticket, but the train didn't stop. Ended up walking
black balloon. You pull the air out of this room to no good. Where we ever understood, we black balloons. The earth, sun, and moon. I'm not worried about changing. It's what we're put here to do. Something is better than nothing. So I go with you. If you ask me to, we'll fly. I'm beside you, black balloon. Black balloon. I'm not scared of what you do, 'cause I made you. Where we ever understood, we black balloons. I've been waiting for changes. It's what we're put here to do. Someone is better than no one. So just ask me to, and I'll go with you. We'll fly. We'll fly. I'm beside you, black balloon. Oh wow, I was ahead of it. That's too fast. I was ahead of it.
That was awesome.
I was so far ahead.
It was right in.
Ah, fuck it. All right. Where do you want to do it? Keep all this. Keep all this. Keep all this. You better keep this. Shining like a word of art, hanging on a wall
was Guster with Satellite on 88.5, the SoCal Sound. Like, great tunes from Guster after all these years. Throwing it back to 2006 with Satellite. Here on a beautiful day in the Valley with Nick Harcourt.